is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 30. I made it to 30 episodes. Let's give myself a round of applause there. Episode 30 of Trail Tales. This is the podcast where I, Kyle O'Grady, a thru hiker, peak bagger, just big old hiking nerd, chat with other thru hikers and other peak baggers and other hiking nerds just like myself. We have tons and tons of fun, and this episode is no exception. My guest today, Austin Davis, is a total badass. He has not only hiked the PCT, but he has yo-yoed the PCT. That's right. This dude went all the way from Mexico to Canada, and then he was like, you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to do it all over again, other direction. So he went back southbound, all the way back down to Mexico. So crazy. I'm pretty sure he's definitely the first yo-yo guest I've had on the show, so that's pretty cool as well. He did not stop there, though. He went down to South America. He did some hiking there. He went over to New Zealand. He did some hiking there. And he even hiked the Arizona Trail, finishing just about a month ago, I believe, which is just so crazy. This dude just lives for the trail, and we talk about all that stuff, plus a bunch of random stuff. We talk about food and a lot about like water sources in Arizona and all this stuff. Like, I'm telling you, I had a blast with this one. And Austin, when you hear this, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. So now's the point where most of you are probably going to hit that skip button, skip forward 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is. You want to get to the actual conversation, and I get it, trust me. I would be lying if I said I'd never done that during some podcast, but hear me out, just like a minute. I'll try to keep it under a minute. It's probably not going to happen, but hey, I'm going to try. Anyways, I got to say a couple things here first. Real quick, if you like the show, I want to hear from you. I know every podcast host says this shit. I know I say it every single episode, but I am dead ass. I want to hear from you guys. If you like what I'm doing, tell me some of your favorite episodes, some of your favorite guests. Of course, I'd love to hear your suggestions for guests. I mean, that's how I find a lot of my guests these days. Austin was a suggestion from somebody on Instagram, which I greatly appreciate. So please hit me up. Like I said, Instagram, I got that, at TrailTalesPod. Email is another great way to contact me, trailtalespod@gmail.com. I know there's people out there that listen to me say this every single episode. Just do it. Come on, I want to hear from you guys. I love hearing from people that listen to this show, because that's what makes it all worth it. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say real quick is that if you like this show, if you listen to this show every single week, like a number of you do, I would just really appreciate it if you considered checking out the Trail Tales Patreon. I know every podcast person has a freaking Patreon, and it's whatever, right? But I'm serious. The reason I do Patreon is to help offset some of the costs that are associated with this show. I'm not trying to get rich off of a freaking hiking podcast, anything stupid like that. I mean, there are some costs associated with the show. I have to pay for hosting. I had to pay for my equipment. I'm going to be building a legitimate website for the show very soon, so that's going to cost some money as well. So that's the reason I do Patreon. Right now, I'm very fortunate that even though I only have 3 Patreon supporters, I am able to offset the costs of the podcast hosting itself, and I'd really like to say that about the rest of the expenses as well. So please go check that out. That being said, I don't expect you to just give me money just so that I can pay for a stupid fucking website. You will get something in return every single month. You'll get a bonus episode and a blooper reel, as well as access to all the previous months' bonus episodes and blooper reels as well. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I'd love for you to go check it out. It's patreon.com/trailtales. There's a link to it in the show notes as well. And that would just be sick. Shout out to Samantha, who signed up for the Trail Tales Patreon last week. I really appreciate that. Alright people, let's do it. Don't forget to subscribe, smash that subscribe button, and leave a 5-star review. Yeah, let's do it. Episode number 30 of Trail Tales with Austin Davis, Pacific Crest Trail Yo-Yo class of 2018, and a bunch of other stuff in 2018 too, and a bunch of stuff in 2019, including the Arizona Trail class of 2019. I can't even list his classes. He's done so much stuff in the past year. So yeah, Austin Davis, let's do it. Okay, here we go. Episode number 30, the big 30 of Trail Tales. This week's guest is a man named Austin Davis. He has done the PCT like twice, kind of. We're going to talk about that in a second. He's also done the Arizona Trail. He's done this trail in New Zealand that I probably cannot pronounce yet. We're going to talk about all this stuff, people. I'm so excited. Austin, how's it going today, man? How was your camping trip this weekend? Like, where'd you go?
Dude, I'm doing great. It's Memorial Day. I have a beer in my hand. Life is good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so this weekend we did 2 nights just outside of Salida, Colorado. Just on some BLM land there. It was pretty cool. Shot guns, played some disc golf, went on a hike. Good times.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to like spend time outside. Like as somebody who's like done a lot of long distance backpacking, I guess it's nice to spend time outside and not just be like hiking all the time too. Like obviously like you'd like to backpack and do all that stuff, but I'm just coming at it from a point of reference where every year for the past couple of years, some friends and I have done this like canoe trip at Saranac Lake in the Adirondacks, and like it's really like the one time I actually get to spend like in the woods outside where I'm not just like, you know, trying to hike like big miles and all that stuff. So it's kind of fun to like see it from the other end sometimes, I guess.
Heck yeah, man. And when you're glamping, you know, you're not carrying everything in a pack, so you have, you know, all kinds of luxury. So it was a good time for sure.
All kinds of beer, definitely. That's probably the best luxury if you're not trying to, you know, just have to carry everything on your back for sure. All right. So shit, I mean, okay, so everybody listening, Austin's done a ton of stuff, and we're going to try to get to as much of it as we possibly can. But to start out here, Austin, I just kind of want to know, you know, how did you first learn about long-distance backpacking, and how did you learn about through hiking?
Sure, man. So yeah, I guess like a year and a half ago, I'd never heard of through hiking. I'd never heard of the PCT or the Appalachian Trail. That just wasn't a part of my life. I wasn't a big hiker. I'd only been backpacking once, and it was in college, and it was a total fuck up. So, but anyways, yeah. So I was an accountant, and I did that for 4 years, and kind of got the adventure bug, man. And I found myself in my office every day, just reading like Lonely Planet blogs and different travel blogs, and I came across a blog about a dude who hiked the PCT, and I was like, what? Like, people hike for 6 months from Canada to Mexico? Like, what? Like, it blew my mind. I didn't know that was a thing.
Understandably so.
You know, it's like, what is wrong with these people? But like, a long story short, I kind of just went down the rabbit hole, and it clicked, man. And a month later, I'd quit my job, sold all my shit, bought all my gear, and I was on the trail. It was kind of just, you know, just felt right.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess kind of on that note, you know, it just felt right. Like, can you elaborate a little bit more about what that means? Because this is something I like to dig into, like with my guests a lot. Because kind of going back to what you just said a second ago, you learn about this trail that goes from Mexico to Canada, and you're like, that's crazy. But like, I feel like most people would kind of just leave it at that, right? Like, most people aren't going to be like, that's crazy, and I want to actually like spend my time and my money, you know, doing this. You know, why take that plunge, I guess?
Sure. So, yeah, initially I wasn't like, oh, this is something I'm gonna do. Like, you know, I'm just like everyone else. You're like, that's something I could never do.
Right.
But then, you know, you keep thinking about it. You're like, well, why can't I do it? Like, what's holding me back? So I have this job. Okay, well, I can quit my job. I have an apartment. Okay, well, I can get, you know, I'm not married. I don't have a mortgage. So, you know, I'd like, especially now, I really encourage people, if there's something you want to do, stop dreaming and just do it. Like, it's so easy to make excuses to not do something, and you know, just fucking do it.
Yeah, but why? I don't know where I'm going with this, but like, again, why spend that money and that time like on a through hike itself, right? Like, you could go travel overseas. I mean, I know you did that, but you know, you could see like so much more. You could, you know, go hang out at the beach and like do all this stuff. You know, why dedicate yourself to just kind of like grinding like physically and mentally like that, and working towards like some sort of goal, I guess?
Oh yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I could have gone anywhere, and I hiked a trail.
Right.
For sure. No, I think a lot of it was just, you know, the challenge. Like, can I walk from Mexico to Canada? You know, I don't know anyone, or previously I didn't know anyone who had done it, and it just seemed like a very unique, interesting way to see the West and the Pacific Northwest. So I think that's part of it. And I don't know, man. I think we're all just a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
Through hikers are through hikers are a special breed of people.
I think
We're all a
that
little
kind of
crazy.
sums it up there for sure, for sure. Well, you didn't just walk from Mexico to Canada. I mean, you walked from Mexico to Canada, and then you walked back to Mexico. You did a freaking yo-yo, which is insane, dude. What's up with that?
Yeah, so that was never in like the plans, man. Like,
Oh, for real? Like you just you set out on a Nobo hike, and then you just
yeah, dude.
Okay, because that was like my first question about all this was like, did you plan this? Like you, because I when we were talking, kind of setting this up, I was like, is that your first hike ever? Like your yo-yo? Like that's so crazy. Okay, let me not cut you off here. So why, like, yeah, what made you decide to just kind of like go and come back and do the yo-yo? Like why was that? Why was just one through hike not enough? I guess.
Sure. So, when I set off towards Canada, like I wasn't even sure if I'd make it through the desert. Like, I had like no backpacking experience.
Right.
But by the time I maybe got halfway through, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm cruising through Northern California. It's beautiful. I made it through the Sierras. I didn't die. So that was dope. And I realized I was pretty early in the hiking season still. And if I hustled, I could possibly southbound the Appalachian Trail. So that was the original plan.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, man. I was hoping to catch like the changing of the leaves, the fall, and as I was hiking south. But when I got up to Washington, man, I don't know, that plan didn't sound so good anymore. I began thinking, I'm like, damn, I really want to see the Sierra Nevadas without any snow. I'd like to, I'd like to see what it looks like heading south. So I got to Manning Park, camped there for a day, and I turned around and kept going.
That's so crazy. You might have just said this a second ago. I might have missed it, but like, how far into your PCT hike were you when you kind of decided that you either wanted to go back and do the AT or just keep hiking, basically?
I was in I want to say halfway through. I was around Northern California when I decided I wanted to keep hiking and do the AT, and I was in Washington, Washington State, when I decided I was going to yo-yo.
When you're just gonna go back down, yeah. Damn. So, yeah. what did like the other hikers you were around like think of this whole idea? Like, because I know for me, when I did the AT last year, I was like very ready to be done by the time I got around to my last couple weeks, like for sure. Like, I mean, still love to hike, like definitely going to be doing more through hikes in the future here, but like at the end there, like there was like, you could not have paid me to go back and turn that around. So like, I'm just so curious about that. Like, how did the other through hikers that you were around kind of react to that? Like, were they like wishing they could kind of do the same thing, or were they more in the boat that I was in, like kind of just ready to be done,
Yeah, no. So let's see. I hiked pretty much the whole way north with mainly just with one person. And when I got up north, she had to go start work in like 3 days, so it wasn't an option for her. But I'm sure she would have tagged along if she could have.
Okay.
It was tough leaving her. But yeah, I mean, I was in kind of like a neat little bubble since I was. I started early and I was hustling, so there was only like maybe 10 or 15 hikers around me, within a day or so, and like so you kind of get tight with them rather than this big bubble. And they were all just like, dude, that's pretty fucking cool. Good luck, but I'm glad to be done, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just think that's so amazing though, because I mean, I talk about the whole like mental aspect of through hiking on this show quite a bit because it really fascinates me. And I don't know, maybe you'd be a good person to like kind of give some advice on just like how to keep your spirits up, I guess. I mean, obviously like for me, I was able to like keep my spirits up enough to like make it the whole way. Like I wasn't like miserable the entire time. Like it was amazing. Like I said, I want to go do another one soon. But like I was just like I was so done at the end. And to even imagine like having like such a good attitude about it and being in such a place that I could just like keep going for like the entire length of what I just did is so amazing. So I don't know, how did you keep your spirits up like that?
Sure. For me, I mean, everyone was different, but I love through hiking. I loved every minute of it. Like quitting was never once never even crossed my mind. Even my worst days, getting snowed on in the Sierras for days, waking up at 2 a.m. to frozen shoes and having to sit on them to defrost them, and shit like that, I love it. You just embrace the brutality, and it's just, this is going to be an epic story. This is, a new experience. So for me, the mental thing really wasn't an issue. And I would say my biggest piece of advice is make it like a little game. Like for me, it was always like, how fast, like every day, like, all right, I'm doing 40 miles a day. How fast can I do those 40 miles? And so by like kind of making it into a game, I was always kind of entertained and stoked for the next day. And every day is, a new adventure kind of a thing.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if you'll always be like that, or if, at some point it'll like change, like maybe just on a specific trail. And kind of in the reverse, I wonder if there'll ever be a time where I get done like a crazy adventure like that and I just like want to keep going too. Like, I don't know. That it really does fascinate me, I guess. You just said a second ago you were hiking like 40-mile days. Like that's pretty crazy. And again, I'm used to like East Coast hiking, so that people can definitely and do hike 40-mile days like on the AT and stuff, but like I feel like it's a little bit less common, so I'm not sure like how the terrain difference like plays into it. But either way, like 40 miles is a lot of freaking miles to hike in a day. So I guess, did you ever have people like wondering why you were hiking so fast and kind of questioning that at all?
Not that I know of. I mean, I'm sure people were wondering, and yeah,
Kind of in the back of their heads.
they're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, why is he in such a rush?
Pretty much.
No, people were cool. I can't think of any instances of that.
Well, that's good. No one ever said it to your face though. But let's say hypothetically somebody would say that, the classic like, oh, like stop and smell the roses. Like, why are you hiking so fast? And just be clear, like I don't have a problem with it. I just know that this is something that people do kind of bug out about sometimes. So I don't know, like, what is it about like doing these big days that kind of like is fun for you, I guess? Like, why not like slow down and maybe take things in a little bit more?
Well, I like both, man. Like on the Arizona Trail, I was chilling, like straight chilling. Like I had no agenda. I didn't have to, finish before a deadline, so I was just enjoying it. But once I kind of set out to do the yo-yo, I committed to that. I announced I was doing it. So, no, I was going to do it. And there's a really tight deadline. Many people have tried or attempted yo-yos, and they usually fail because they don't get back south through the Sierras before the snow hits, and then the passes get snowed in and you're fucked. That's your hike's over. So if you're not through in the like first week or two of October, it's game over. So basically my whole way south, I was just moving, man, just no 0 days, just every day after day, 40 mile, 40 mile, 40 mile.
Damn.
And your body, you turn into a machine, it just becomes, normal. And you have the little things, you get to town, you drink a beer, it's always the next beer, the next burger kind of a thing to keep your spirits up. But yeah, man, I don't even remember what your question was. I kind of started rambling there.
So no, you're good, dude. You're good. Oh, geez, do I even? Yeah, it was about the like the big mile days, right? Like, why put yourself through hiking 40 miles when you could, just hike like maybe 10 miles is a little low on the PCT. I don't even know, but hike less and maybe like soak things in a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I'm competitive, man. It feels good to just be crushing miles. Something about it. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be fair, like everyone's got their own style. And another thing, in my longest day on the AT was like 30 miles, and that was not every day for sure. It was usually like 20-mile days there. So I wasn't hiking quite as fast, but there were still a lot of people that were hiking, slower than I was at least. And I know for me, it's like, sure, maybe you don't get to spend as much time like chilling and like soaking things in, but you also get to see more stuff too, because you're just like hiking further in a day. Like you just keep going, you get to point A and you're like, shit, this is cool, but like point B sounds pretty sick too, so I kind of want to just get there,
Absolutely, man. Yeah, a lot of people, I got that a lot. People were like how can you even see what's around you when you're doing those big days? I'm like, what do you mean, dude? Like, I'm just seeing more every day. It's better.
yeah, and that's something that, because I've asked this question to other people on the show before too, and that's like kind of what the general like consensus is, I guess, in response to anybody questioning that. So I don't know. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. People hike lots of miles, hike short miles, like don't hike. Like actually no, don't do that. You should definitely go hike, but yeah, do what you want. Let's see. Okay, so this might be a little bit tough to answer because of the whole yo-yo thing, but I actually, so you know what? I was trying to record another interview this weekend with a lady who hiked the PCT both northbound and southbound, like 2 different times, and unfortunately our conversation kind of fell through. But I guess I could kind of throw this question at you again. It's a little bit different because you did them like in the same hike pretty much, but what would you say to somebody who is like trying to decide which direction they want to hike the PCT, aka me, because honestly I'm thinking about doing it in the next couple of years. I don't know, what are some of the advantages of going northbound? What are some of the advantages of going southbound? What do you think about the whole like choosing a direction thing, I guess?
Dude, I'm all about southbound.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of took a hard stance there. I want to hear about this.
Yeah. So I guess my 2 main reasons would be there's no bugs when I was going south. So for people listening, if you're wondering, like, all right, so when are there no bugs? When did you start going south? Well, I started going south July 31st. So that was when I began my southbound.
Is that a little bit later than like a normal southbound PCT start date?
I would say, yeah, for sure. It's about a month.
Okay.
I think most people start like in the beginning of July.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no bugs, which was great because when I was heading up north, man, Northern California and Oregon was just nuked with mosquitoes. Like you just could not get away from them. They were everywhere. It was pretty horrible. So you hike the AT, I'm sure you know a lot about bugs too.
Oh yeah, there's some bad sections for sure.
So that was pretty neat. Just no bugs, and then you get to the Sierras, and there's no fucking snow. You can just walk on trail. You don't have to stare at your gut hooks to like, know where you're going. There's a fucking trail. There's no creek crossings. It's dry. You don't have to like cross these crazy creeks that are freezing cold. I don't know. It's just, it was just an easier hike, I guess, for those 2 reasons. The only drawback I would say, and this could be a bonus depending on what you're into, is a lot less people hike it southbound. So you may be, spending more days alone. That might be something to consider because it's definitely more popular to hike north.
Right.
The secret's out, guys. Southbound's the way to go.
Interesting. Okay. I guess how many people were you seeing when you were going southbound? And again, I know your start date was like a little bit later. I'm assuming you probably caught up to a lot of people, at some point as well. But like you say, there's less people. Like, was there like significantly less people? Like, as in, maybe only seeing like 1 or 2 through hikers a day, or was it just like more than that, but just not as many? Like, can you just kind of talk about the amount of people? Like, I'm really just curious about this, honestly. Like, I'm trying to decide which direction I'm going, so I'm trying to take everything into consideration.
Yeah, man. So once I caught up to like the main southbound bubble, which took a bit, I would, I saw tons of people. I would hike by, it was lots and lots of people every day.
Mm-hmm.
But before and after that, it would be, just a hiker here and there. I would even go days without seeing anyone, which was
interesting.
Kind of nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay. Would you say, are you generally like a solo hiker, or do you kind of like both? Having other people around, or I don't know, like I know sometimes when you're hiking at a pace like that too, it can be hard to like stick with a group of people for a long time. So I don't know. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, man. So that's a tricky one. Like hiking, at least to me, it's not really a team sport. Everyone kind of has their own pace, their own agenda. And so if you are going to commit to hike with someone, it's tough because you have to, it's not just about you. You have to take into account, what they want to do when they get into town, where they want to camp, how many miles they want to go, when they want to rest. So I did hike the whole way north, basically the whole way north, with one person, and it was great. She's the best hiking partner ever, and I'm hoping we can get back out and hopefully the CDT in a year or 2.
Nice.
But yeah, and so to answer your question, I like hiking alone just because I can do my own thing, stop when I want to stop, take pictures when I want to take a picture. But like I love camping with people. Like camping alone sucks.
Yeah.
So like in the perfect world, and this is what me and my hiking partner did, is we would camp together every night, but during the day we would just hike at our own pace. Like I would usually get into camp about an hour before her, and then she'd cruise in, and every morning we'd pick a spot down the trail, and we'd commit to meeting there that night, and it worked out pretty well for us.
Yeah, dude, that's the way to do it for sure. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty popular thing among, like, bubbles when you're doing the AT or the PCT or whatever. When I was on the AT, I did about half the trail just with one other person, and then the second half I was with like a couple more people, and that's pretty much what we did. Like the entire way, it was just like, okay, we're gonna meet here at the end of the day, and we'll do that, but then kind of go at your own pace during the day, and like sometimes we would like actually hike together too for like a mile or two here and there if it just kind of worked out that way. But for the most part, I could not agree more, honestly. Like, camping alone sucks. Definitely want to camp with other people. Kind of unwind at the end of the day a little bit. Have someone to bitch and moan to for a second if you're in that mood, or someone to kind of take it all in with if it's a better vibe. But then being able to go at your own pace while you're actually hiking is definitely a lot better. Let's talk about the Arizona Trail a little bit, Austin. So I talked to a man named Joseph, Sweatlines was his trail name, about the Arizona Trail. He had hiked the Arizona Trail at the end of last year, I believe. This was like a couple months ago now. He was one of my earlier guests, so I can't quite remember, honestly. Sorry, Joseph, if you hear this. But one of the things that really stuck out to me about this trail, about the Arizona Trail, is the whole like water source, like drinking out of, what do they call, the cattle troughs, right?
Oh yeah, man, they're pretty gnarly.
So dude, like I've never really hiked anywhere besides on the East Coast. Like I've done, a number of miles here, obviously did the AT, and I've done, probably at least 1,000 miles beyond just that over the years. But I've really never hiked out west, so I'm not used to like bad water sources. I'm not used to long water carries. And so when Joseph was telling me about drinking out of these like cattle troughs, I could not believe it. Like, honestly, if you go back and listen to that episode, like, I'm kind of embarrassed about it now because I've done a little more research and I was just like freaking out about that. But I gotta say, like, I still gotta ask you about it. Like, how was it drinking out of those? And like, did you ever have to drink out of any like super, super nasty ones?
Yeah, man, that's just a part of the game on the AZT. Unfortunately, yeah, there's a few stretches where there's nothing but these stock ponds and these cattle troughs, and they're just these algae infested just swamp water, man. But I gotta give a shout out to Sawyer, man. You put that shit through the square and it comes out clear, and you squirt a little Neo in there and it tastes fucking good. No issues. It's just it's a little gross dipping your hand in the water to get it. That's the worst part, I think.
Yeah, right. Like something's gonna just like come up and freaking like take a nip at your finger or something. Ugh.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Swamp monsters, man. They're out there.
They're in the water sources on the AZT. Damn. How often were you drinking out of those nasty sources? Is it like a regular thing? Like, are we talking like once a day, twice a day? Is it only for like a specific like section of the trail? Like, can you just kind of talk about the frequency of those gross water sources?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're out there and you're thinking about hiking the AZT, definitely don't let gnarly water sources freak you out, because there's probably only 2 or 3 that were really bad that you kind of have to drink out just because it's just the only water around.
Right.
For the rest of the trail, and those are down south, like in the desert. Once you get up north, that's not an issue. And
okay,
people are really great at leaving caches at waterhead. So I mean, I'd say in the desert, most of the time I was filling my bottles with bottled water. It was pretty great.
Okay.
The trail angels are solid down there.
Okay, so here's a question kind of going off of that. So again, never hiked out west, not used to these like water caches, all this stuff, all these long water carries. So like, would you say that you can like kind of rely on water caches on the AZT, or were you usually like still kind of planning it just like, legit water source to legit water source, and then kind of just like topping yourself off with the water caches, I guess?
So, this probably isn't good advice, but yeah, I totally plan on water caches.
Hey, no, tell it like it is. Like, I know, like people, like, you should never rely on water caches. Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there. But honestly, like, I've always like wondered about this, because that's usually you can't rely on them is like always the response I get, right? So I'm kind of glad you're saying differently. I wanna hear about this.
Dude, on the PCT and on the AZT, I always kind of relied on them, but you got to be smart about it. Like, especially in the AZT, all these caches, they're typically at a trailhead where there's a road. So I'd be like, all right, worst case scenario, there's no water there. Fuck. All right, I'll put my thumb out and shake an empty water bottle, and someone will eventually stop and give me water. I'm not gonna die.
Yeah, yeah.
You just might, you might be uncomfortable. I've had nights where, yes, there was no water. I was thirsty. It was uncomfortable. Just, but it's not life threatening. It's if you just got to know your own abilities and your own limits and what you're comfortable with. I guess.
So you did have times where you got to water caches, or what you thought was going to be a water cache, and you were kind of shit out of luck.
Yeah, happened a couple times, and it's it sucks, but it doesn't happen often. But yeah, it definitely can.
Okay, interesting. So another question that I always like to ask people with the West Coast, especially the Arizona Trail, because it does sound like it's a pretty dry trail. How long, and I know it varies, but like, how long on average were you having to carry water like between stretches, right? Is it just like, because I don't know, because I feel like I was always under the impression, until I started this podcast, honestly, and actually started to have a lot of conversations with people who have done these Western trails, I was always under the impression that it was like 20 or 30 mile like water carries, just like ridiculous shit, right? I don't know. Did you ever have anything that came like close to that bad? And like how long would you say like your average water carry was?
I'd say my average water carry is about 20 miles.
So they are that bad, really?
But the caveat is that's not like, there were a lot of times where I could have taken a side trail to a cattle trough, or I could have gotten water, but
okay,
that's just how I roll. Like I just don't need that much water sometimes. 20 miles, I'd rather just get the miles in rather than stop and filter water. So I'm comfortable hiking. You can throw 2 liters on my back, I can get 20 miles in, no problem.
Okay, and when you talk about these like side trails or like places you could have gone to get more water, are you talking like just like a 0.2 off the trail kind of thing, or like a miles off the trail and kind of looping back like kind of deal,
Yeah, I'd say anywhere from like a mile down.
Okay, interesting. So I guess, people who hike out west a lot are probably like thinking like I'm kind of a bitch for like, oh, it's only a mile off the trail, right? But like on the 18, all the East Coast trails, it was usually if a water source was more than like 0.2 off the trail, like I would never even bother to go get it, because like I could just like go a couple more miles and then get more water. So
I'm the same way, man.
It's like, yeah, like why? Like especially if you're trying to do like 40-mile days like you are, like, yeah, not really trying to go super far out of the way. But it also sounds like you kind of have to in certain scenarios on these Western, or I guess more specifically the AZT, because that's what we're talking about. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm ever going to hike the Arizona Trail. It's like, it's on my list, but it's like not high on my list. So maybe I'll get to it eventually, but yeah, I don't know. Like the cattle troughs, dude, like I don't know how I do with that. Like I'm just too like Vermonty, like East Coasty. I'm used to having like too much water on the trail, not like a lack of water like that,
Yeah, no, I feel it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. I mean, then again, I haven't actually done it, so who knows? So another thing kind of relating to like the whole like water thing is bringing a stove or not bringing a stove. So like on all my hikes, like I love to have a stove. Like I have a pretty light setup and everything, but like that's one of the things that like I have a very hard time imagining myself giving up. However, hearing about these long water carries, and actually I've been doing a lot of research on the CDT like the past like week or so, and there's some long water carries on the CDT as well, it sounds like. So I'm kind of like planning and like skeeving for if and when I get out there, and I can almost see myself not bringing a stove on a trail like that, just because I would like have to have even more water to like cook with, and it just seems like, and then like clean my pot and do all this stuff. So it kind of seems like it might actually make sense, I guess, for a trail with less water. What did you do for like your food and like your cooking or lack thereof kind of setup?
Yeah, man. So I did begin the PCT with a stove and a pot, but about, I sit at home in Idlewild. I think that's like, I don't know, 170-ish miles in.
Okay, so pretty early on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just was extra weight. I wasn't really using it, so I ditched the stove, man, and I basically just a pretty simple diet. My trail name is Snacks because really all I eat. Candy, protein bars, trail mix, jerky is pretty much my staples.
Damn. Like even for dinner and stuff too? Like that's not just like kind of what you're snacking on throughout the day?
Yeah, man. For dinner, I would have like, I'm really into those complete cookies. Pretty solid. I'd have like one or two of those, a couple protein bars, a chocolate bar, and that was pretty much it. And the Sierra is like cold soaked, because I
Okay.
needed the extra calories. But other than that, it was just kind of snacking.
Interesting. Okay. See, I feel like even if I didn't bring a stove, I don't know if I could just like straight up eat like protein bars for dinner. I feel like I'd still have to have like some sort of like I don't know, like at like that's obviously like an actual meal. Like it's calories are calories, right? But like I'd have to have like some sort of like wrap or like something, dude, or like cold soak. Like I don't even know. Like that's pretty crazy. Like you must have like burnt out on that stuff for dinner after a while, right?
Dude, that's what's weird, man. Like I'm off trail. I have my own place. Like I still eat those same fucking protein bars. I still eat that same the same fucking trail mix.
Wow.
I just
Damn.
it worked for me because I actually enjoyed it. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoy snacking. I've always been that way, and so yeah, it's I always look forward to that protein bar, man.
How many how many protein bars do you eat for dinner? Like shit. Like I mean, I don't know about you, but I would usually have like my biggest meal of the day like for dinner. Like I would probably like eat at least 1,000 calories between the tortillas and all the North sides and fucking pepperoni and all that shit. Like, were you just like cramming down like 6 protein bars? Like how many would you eat? Like I gotta know.
Yeah, so I usually would have like 3 or 4 throughout the day, and then for dinner I would have one of those complete cookies. They have like 500 calories in them, so that's a good start.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'll have a protein bar too, and then I'll eat like half a quart of trail mix, which is a shit ton of calories and fats. And so
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff, it's dense, it's heavy, so it's really not the best ultralight option. But like I said, I just enjoy it, and
Yeah,
it's rocket fuel.
yeah, dude. Literally,
It's
it's hiker fuel, and trail mix has like a pretty. I mean, it's like heavy, but it packs a punch. Like you get a lot for what you're carrying for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
How about like breakfast then? Don't tell me you just had protein bars for fucking breakfast too.
No, dude, breakfast was always exciting. I would have my breakfast brew,
Ooh.
which check it out. It's this is exciting. Write this down. Take notes, guys. So you take a liter smart water bottle. You fill it up halfway with water, and then you throw in 2 packets of the like instant coffee, like Starbucks Via or the
Yeah, yeah.
Folgers, just instant shit. And then you do 1 packet of the chocolate breakfast essentials. Shake it up. You do that the night before, so that when you wake up, it's ready to go. And you just fucking chug that guy, and you're on the road.
Nice, nice, nice. I actually just tried the breakfast essentials for like the first time on a hike I did a couple weeks ago. For some reason, I don't know. I just like never did them, but I always would have instant coffee in the morning. Like I fucking love coffee. Like every day, like I have to have coffee, even if I'm in the middle of the woods, right? And like I just for the first time, I tried like just mixing that in with the coffee, like a couple packets of that. And like it honestly gives you a nice little boost in the morning. Like I usually drink my coffee black, honestly, which is why I kind of resisted it for so long. But like it's pretty much just like some like coffee with like creamer, and it has like some protein and calories in it too. So that shit's actually pretty good. I tried the French vanilla kind. Like sounds like you like the chocolate better though, eh?
Yeah, man, I gotta say, not a big fan of the vanilla. But hey, to each their own.
To each their own, for sure, for sure. All right, Austin, would it be okay if I just like drill you with a bunch of questions about this New Zealand trail? Because I do this thing where when I cover a trail that I haven't like talked about on the show before, I'll often just kind of like ask a bunch of like very basic questions about it, just to kind of give my listeners, who I'm sure a lot of are also kind of wondering about this trail. Some of them, like the smart, experienced ones, have probably heard it all before, but the ones like me are probably kind of curious. So, is that cool? Yeah, I'm just gonna like ask like a bunch of like the basic questions. Talk about like what. First of all, actually, hold on, Kyle. Let's not get too ahead of myself here. I can't pronounce the name of this trail, so that's the first thing. How do you pronounce the name of this trail?
Tara.
All right, let's one more time, real slow.
Te Araroa.
Te
Dude,
Ara
I don't even know if I'm saying it right. It's fucking weird.
Te
Like,
Ararora. Is that what it is? I'm
yeah,
like
no, that was perfect.
Te Ararora. Okay, I'm gonna butcher that as we go on, but okay.
It's called the TA, man.
The TA. Okay, TA. I can do that. I like that a lot. TA. So for those of you that don't know, this trail is in New Zealand, as I said a couple times, and that's really all I know about this trail, honestly. I had never even heard of it until I was on my thru hike this summer, and I talked to a couple people that were kind of like thinking about doing it in the future, and at first I was kind of like, yeah, like New Zealand, like, I mean, I don't know anything about New Zealand, so I was like, it can't be like something similar to like a thru hike here in the United States, right? And, you know, I have like done a little bit of research since then. I'm honestly mostly just looking through your website and kind of reading some of your entries from that, and like, I was definitely wrong. Like, it looks like super legit, and I'm actually pretty excited to learn about it. So let's start with that. So, like, what is this trail exactly? You know, where does it start? Where does it end? How long is it? Can you just give me some of that, like, basic information?
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. So it starts in the northern tip of the North Island. For those of you who don't know, New Zealand is made of 2 islands. So the northern tip is Cape Reinga, and that's where you start.
Okay.
If you're going Soba, which is what I did. I actually started on New Year's Day, so that was kind of cool.
Interesting, yeah.
And then you make your way south. It's about south all the way down to the southern tip of the South Island, which is Bluff, and altogether it's about 1,800 miles.
Damn.
And I would say those miles are split pretty much evenly between the 2 islands.
Between the 2 islands, okay. Well, shit, this just popped into my head. How do you get between the islands?
Dude, that was the interesting thing about the TA that I hadn't expected. So to get between the 2 islands, you have to take a ferry. It's about a 3-hour long ferry ride.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You get online. It's like buying a plane ticket. It was pretty interesting, but it's cool. It was cool.
You can't just like swim that shit, right? Like, does that count as like ferry blazing if you didn't actually like swim between the islands? No, that's stupid. People, don't do that. You're gonna drown. I would definitely drown.
No, dude. Some of my readers for sure gave me shit for not swimming. Especially, like, I'm a swimmer. Like, that's my sport. Has always been my sport.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
So, honestly, I am a pussy. I should have swam it.
Damn. No shit. No, don't do that, people. I don't want to be responsible for anybody freaking drowning in New Zealand, a country I don't even know anything about, really. Okay, so another question I have about this is, like, how does the whole camping thing work? Because, again, like, I'm, like, only used to, like, you know, East Coast United States, like, you know, backcountry kind of camping. But just from doing research on some, like, other, like, random trails, not even in New Zealand, just in other countries, right? Like, there's a lot of these trails that, like, it sounds like you can't really just, like, you know, U.S. style, like, backcountry camp on. What is the camping like on the TA? And are there, like, you know, places like you can actually, like, stay, like hostels and stuff like that? Or can you just, like, pitch a tent or whatever?
Yeah, man. So the TA is a lot different than anything in America. And, you know, you can't really just freedom camp like you can on the PCT or the AZT. A lot of the time, you're supposed to hike from hut to hut and stay in the hut. I, however, was not a fan of the huts. I like tenting. I don't sleep well with a bunch of strangers, especially if they're snoring. That's not cool.
Oh, for sure.
So I only actually stayed in the huts like once or twice, and that was just because it was raining. But yeah, man, it's tough. You really have to plan your camping, because there's a lot of times there's just not places. So you would have shorter days or you would have longer days to get to you know, potential campgrounds. And then what was kind of rough about New Zealand, especially the North Island, is there's so many little towns you go through. Like, you know, you're hiking through a lot of private land. You can't camp, and so you have to get either a hotel room or an Airbnb or a hostel.
Yeah.
And pretty damn often, and so that racked up, you know, money-wise, pretty damn quick. I think I spent more money in 2 months in New Zealand than I did in 7 months on the PCT.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, the camping situation is not great, but you can make it work. The South Island's a lot better. The North Island is rough.
Okay, interesting. And when you say, you know, obviously you were still able to make it work, were you usually like stealth camping, Or were you mostly just like staying at like actual like campgrounds for people that, weren't just on a through hike, right?
Yeah, man, I was stealth camping like 80% of the time.
Okay. So you still were able to make that work. I'm not gonna make you admit to doing anything illegal, but like we're actually that's pretty much exactly what I'm about to do. Like, were you ever like camping, where you quote maybe like shouldn't have been, or were there still like enough legal like stealth spots that you were able to kind of make it work with some some planning, I guess?
Yeah, without a doubt, I camped, a few times, places I definitely should not have. But, it's kind of the thing. You get in late at night, you leave early, no one's gonna bug you. That's the key. But yeah, it happens, but not that often.
Okay. And yeah, it sounds like most people maybe are not doing like the whole camping route, so they're just like staying in the huts. Actually, yeah, tell me more about these huts, right? Because that's actually another thing I had heard about from other hikers, when learning about this trail on my through hike last summer. Like, how do those work? Like, can you just like show up? Like, how much do they cost? Do they feed you? Is it just like a hostel pretty much? Tell me about the huts.
Yeah, so New Zealand does a really good job with their huts. Like, there's some of them are super impressive, and not so much on the North Island. There's definitely plenty of huts on the North Island, but on the South Island, you could be in a hut every single night if you wanted to, and that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people hike 10 miles a day from hut to hut to hut, And that's why I think the average TA through hike is 5 to 6 months. And, I did it in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you just want to enjoy, hike slow through the mountains and camp in a hut, you can totally do that. And they're nice and they're warm. They all have stoves and wood and they're pretty dope. But, the hut pass is what you got to get though, if you're interested in doing that. And, I don't know how much it costs because I didn't buy one because I didn't really use the huts.
Right.
But I don't think it's too bad.
Okay, interesting. And then obviously you can just like stay at any of them at that point once you get that.
Yeah, once you have the hut pass, as long as it's one of the government run huts. There's some private ones out there that you need permission to stay in. But yeah, for the most part, you're set.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, see, I don't know. I would love to like go to New Zealand. I've never really been to another country in my entire life, honestly. I've been to Canada, but that almost like doesn't count because I live less than an hour from the border up here in Vermont. So I would definitely I think that'd be such an amazing way to like experience a foreign country, like just like literally walking the fucking length of it. Like that's so awesome. So I don't know what I would do if I were to go do the TA, honestly, because I also like really enjoy just like, tent camping. Like, I'm not crazy about like I was never crazy about staying in hostels on the AT. Hotel rooms are like better, obviously, but I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit, but I feel like I have a better kind of understanding about how the camping works now. So that's pretty sweet. How about other people on this trail? Is it like a pretty popular trail, like kind of comparable to like the PCT or the AT, you think?
Totally. I think I don't know if this is true. I think I heard around like 1,000 people hiked it this year.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a traffic trail. I didn't go a single day without seeing people. Actually, that's not true. So I started pretty late in the season, so it took a couple weeks for me to actually run into my first through hiker. But once I caught up to the bubble, they were every day. I would see tons of hikers.
Okay, interesting. How about other Americans specifically?
Yeah, so I met a handful of Americans. It seemed like I met a lot of Germans, a lot of people from Europe. Surprisingly, very few Kiwis were actually out there, which is
Is that a term for like people from New Zealand? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I met a few people from America. I met one dude that I ran into on the PCT last year, so that was kind of cool.
Oh, no way! Like, did you like realize you might see each other, or was it just like a total random, like small world kind of thing?
Total random, man.
Oh,
it
that's awesome.
It was weird.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. How about like resupply and food? Like, what's that like on the TA? Because I mean, it sounds like you're going through towns pretty often here. Are mail drops even a thing on this trail? Like, are there like grocery stores or like places to buy food like pretty consistently along the way? Like, how's the food situation?
Yeah, man. So the food situation is just like the PCT. You know, their supermarkets are the exact same thing as America. They eat the same shit that we do. There's nothing weird. The resupplying was a breeze there, man. I sent one box to this little town called Saint Arnaud, and that's because I think there was only like a gas station there, and
Okay.
I could have gotten by without it. But yeah. So on the North Island, there you hit more towns. So I would say my average food carry was just 2 or 3 days. Like it was
Okay.
nothing. And on the South Island, it's a bit more remote, and so I think my longest food carry was like 5 or 6 days, but average was like 3 or 4. Still not that bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. So like, was it like the PCT in that you had to like actually go off trail a little bit to get into town and resupply, or does the trail actually go through like most of these towns?
Most of the time, the trail actually kind of just goes through, which is really nice. But yeah, every once in a while you'd have to throw the thumb out and get into town. None of the
Hitchhiking?
calls were very.
No, sorry. I just think that's crazy. Like hitchhiking in like another country like that. That kind of blows my mind a little bit. That sounds like pretty sweet.
Dude, what's cool about New Zealand is like hitchhiking is like a total thing there because backpacking, like not the kind of backpacking we do. Like they call backpacking over there just like, just traveling around with your shit in a backpack, but
Yeah.
like hitchhiking basically.
Damn.
And so that's like a super popular there because it's, a beautiful country, so all the tourists. So hitching there was the easiest, it never took more than a few minutes. It was great. People are so
Yeah.
friendly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I guess, dude, this is like rapid fire. Like this is great. I'm learning so much here. Um, a big question about this trail is like, just like, what is the terrain like? Because I don't know anything about this. Like, is it like steep? Like, are you climbing a lot? Is it like flat? Like, are you going through forests, fields, like all that stuff? Like, I don't even know. What's the terrain like on this trail?
Yeah, so it's super varied. In the North Island, it's a lot of beach walks, which are cool.
Oh shit! See,
Um,
I didn't even occur to me. Beach walks, like that sounds amazing.
yeah, man, it's beautiful. New Zealand has incredible beaches, man, just for miles and miles. And so a lot of beach walks. Unfortunately, on the North Island, the trails can like 55% road walking,
Oh
like
really?
paved, busy roads. And so it's quite common for people to kind of hitch a lot in the North Island, which
Yeah.
isn't my thing. I did hike all the roads and it sucked, to be honest. I really didn't enjoy the North Island that much because it felt like I was just, hiking on 30 miles on a road to get to the next trail and be on a trail for a day or two and then spending another day on the road. So that
Interesting.
kind of sucks. But it's really pretty. I mean, the North Island is more volcanic, and the South Island is more not volcanic, I guess. That's pretty ignorant, but yeah, no. So there's a pretty cool section called the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, and you go up and over this like it's Mount Mordor from Lord of the Rings is what it is. It's fucking cool,
Damn.
and so that's really the only highlight of the North Island, in my opinion. And then the terrain, and this is pretty consistent North and South Island. When you are in the forest, a lot of really cool forests. Like I don't know the names of the trees there, but they're dope. But there's no switchbacks. It's not like the PCT or the ACT. It sounds like I haven't hiked the AT, but it's what I envision the AT to be like. You're just going straight up and
Yep.
straight down these big
Yeah.
fucking mountains, and it can be brutal at times, man. But and mud, it's super muddy too. Like your feet are wet pretty much every day, all day. You're walking through. There were times I was walking through like ankle deep mud for days. It's just everything is covered in mud, so that was kind of shitty.
Yeah, okay. So that does sound a lot more similar to the AT then. Would you say that the TA was more difficult just as far as like the climbing goes maybe than the PCT?
You know, not so much the climbing. I think what made it mentally tougher for me was the rain. It rained like almost every other day, and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. Like that's where I was raised. I don't really do rain. So I'll just say I highly recommend ponchos. They work
Yeah.
great. And
I don't really do rain. Oh man, dude. I wish I could say that here in Vermont, but that is not the case at all. Um, so I guess one of the last like major questions I have about this trail is, so sorry for those of you that aren't from the United States listening to this, but I gotta ask because like I said, I've really never traveled out of the country before. What was the process like? As an American, traveling there and kind of finding your way to the trail. Interacting with like the change of culture, I guess, which I mean, I don't think it's like super drastic. It sounds like, but like I don't know. And then like some of the logistics as far as like the visa or lack of visa. I really don't know how any of that stuff works with New Zealand. So how was your experience just kind of with that, like being foreign and traveling there?
yeah, man, that's actually a good question because it was quite a process
Oh,
getting to
really?
that trailhead. Yeah, man. So I actually flew to New Zealand from Chile. I was down in South America doing some hiking, and I was actually my original plan was never to do the TA. My original plan was to through hike the Greater Patagonian Trail, and after about 150 miles of that, I bailed because I was not having fun. And so I basically just, I knew I wanted to keep hiking, and I needed to be in the southern hemisphere because that's where summer was.
Mhm.
So New Zealand was kind of my best bet. I didn't know anything about the trail. I hadn't done any research. I, I just I bought a ticket to New Zealand, and the next day I was on a plane to the other side of the world, man, and
Damn.
uh,
Damn.
it was crazy. Just getting to New Zealand took about 50 hours of
Oh,
traveling, straight
yikes.
traveling, because I was down in Torres del Paine National Park, which is in like super southern Chile, and it's kind of remote. And so I had to take like two buses just to get to the regional airport, and from there I took a regional plane to Santiago, where I hopped on a bigger plane, and from there I went to Argentina, which was fine. And then from there, I got to New Zealand finally.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that alone took forever. So now it's 9 a.m. I'm in New Zealand. I flew into Auckland, and I hadn't slept in, like I said, like 50 hours. But I'm like, all right, I don't want to spend a night in Auckland. I just want to get to the trail. So it's about, I think, 400 miles of road to get up to where the trail starts in Cape Reinga. And so I was able to buy a bus ticket that got me about half the way there, but there was just no buses that go any further north
Oh,
than that.
wow.
Yeah, man. So I got off the bus in Kira, I believe, is where I got off. And from there, I had about 200 miles of hitchhiking, and it was like
Oh,
5
shit.
p.m. So I'm just like, all right, you got this, Austin. You got this. So I threw the
Damn,
thumb
dude.
out, and I got a couple short rides as people go on to the next town, and finally, this dude drives up, and he rolls down his window, and he's all tatted up and kind of a bro,
Yeah, yeah.
and but super friendly. And he's like, hey man, like you need a ride? I was like, fuck yeah, I do. And he's like, well, I'm actually like not going far at all. I'm actually just going back to my house. I'm having some people over tonight. Do you want to come over? Like, you can spend the night. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I definitely want to do that.
That's fucking nuts. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. So I hop in this guy's car, and we drive off to his house, and it was the day before New Year's, so they were having like a little celebration. So I got to meet, my first day in New Zealand. I'm meeting all these cool ass Kiwis. Just drinking beer with them, and they're telling me about the country, and they had horses, so I got to ride one of their
Oh,
horses, which
nice.
I'd never done before. It was bareback. She's like, just hop on. Here's a bridle. I'm like, what? Like, there's no saddle? Like, what?
Damn.
So it was just like a very interesting, like, wow, I'm in New Zealand and this is happening kind of experience.
Then did he like drive you the rest of the way, like the next day or something? Like how'd you get all the way back to the trail after that?
No, so yeah, the next day he dropped me back off on the main highway, and I threw the phone back out, and within minutes this girl from Sweden drove by and stopped, and she just so happened she was heading up to Cape Reinga to
Oh,
check it
shit.
out. So I got hooked up, and so yeah, she took me the whole way there. It took about 3 hours,
Nice.
um, and then I was on the trail. It was cool.
Hell yeah. Well, sounds like hitchhiking is pretty damn like easy in New Zealand, so that's good to know, dude. That's good to know. Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like I just learned a ton about that trail, and hopefully everybody listening did as well, because like I said, like that one's like definitely higher on my list than the Arizona Trail, so hopefully I'll get around to both of them, but we'll see. Dude, we're kind of getting towards the end here, Austin. Thank you so much for taking the time. With that said, I warned you about the like telling a story at the end thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I forgot to tell like one of my previous guests, so I'm just trying to make sure. So I guess, yeah, dude, with that said, at the end of the episode, I always like to have my guests just share a story, literally any story from any of your hikes, you know, just anything related to your hike at all. It could be like in town, like fucking, like literally anything at all. And yeah, what do you have for us?
Yeah, man. So before I hiked the PCT, I hiked about 400 miles of the Arizona Trail just to kind of do a gear shakedown and to, you know, figure stuff out because I didn't have any experience. And so I was out there on doing one section, and it was a super hot day. Just long desert walk all day. It was like a 20-30 mile walk through the desert, and I had my eyes set on this Ramada, just kind of in the desert. That there's, you know, Gut Hook says there's a Ramada with a spigot there, and there should be water. So
Okay.
I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna get there. And so I pull up around like right when the sun's coming down, and I find the spigot, and I'm like, all right, please be water. Like, I'm super thirsty. And I turn it on, and sure enough, yeah, like water's coming out. Life is good. And so, you know, I'm pretty filthy. It's been a couple days since I've, you know, washed my hands, my face, you know, my socks are pretty gross. So
Yeah.
I kind of start taking a little bath in the spigot, like, you know, just getting the dust off, washing my socks. And as I'm washing my last pair of socks, I start to notice the spigot, like, starts to kind of like slow down. The water starts to kind of like come to a trickle.
Oh no.
And yeah, dude. And then it just stopped. Like, there was no more water. And, you know, of course, I hadn't filled up my water bottles yet.
Oh no.
So, dude, there I am in, you know, the middle of the desert. There's no one around. There's nothing around. And I don't have any water. And, like, the nearest water source, it's not that bad. It's like 5 miles off. But, like, I was toasted. I wasn't going to do 5 more miles that night. So it sucked, man. I just ended up, you know, camping that night, super thirsty. It was a bummer, but the good news is the silver lining. I learned a very valuable lesson. You always fill your water bottles first. So I never made that mistake again, man. To always fill your bottles first.
Damn.
But hey, I had clean socks, so that was
yeah, for real. At least you'll feel a little bit cleaner. Like, did that ever happen to you again? Like at all? Like, did you ever like go to, you know, like obviously fill your bottles up first and then, you know, do some more clean stuff with the water afterwards and have a spigot just stop like that?
Dude, that has never happened to me again.
But you'll still never take that risk, I'm sure.
No, but I don't know what the situation was, like where that water's coming from, if it's a well or what, man. But yeah, dude, I tapped it out. I feel bad for whoever was behind me.
Hey, well, like you just said, at least you got clean socks, dude. That's so funny.
Yep.
I'm sure it wasn't funny at the time, but it's kind of funny now listening back. So, thanks for sharing, dude. I think we're gonna kind of wrap this up, Austin. Real quick before we go, can you just take a second to plug like your website and your Instagram and all those places people can go and find you at?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to check out, you know, my hikes, I blogged every day. So my website is notabadplacetopee.com. And on Instagram, you can find me at trail_snacks. So trail snacks.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot, Kyle.
Yeah, dude. Thanks so much. Don't hang up quite yet, but to everybody listening, thank you so much. Austin, thank you again one more time, dude. And yeah, I'm going to go watch the Bruins play their first Stanley Cup game. Go Bruins. Yeah, Trail Tales out. Thanks, everybody.